What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
Welcome to our show. It is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. Thank goodness it's Tuesday. Thank goodness it's Tuesday, and so forth and so on here. Actually, should be sure happy it's Tuesday. Counting down these last few days to a real armpit of a year, 2020. And so we've got, a lot of news to get through here today. And a little reminder, a little program note, this week is going to be just like last week. We're live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday we're taking off for the New Year's holiday. So, set your little calendars for all that situation here. All right, getting on into things. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials, keeping us out of trouble and taking care of business. We're going to do news until we run out of news, and then we're going to open up the phone lines for your comments and questions and so forth. Anyway, a lot of people still talking about the Christmas Day bombing in Nashville. And there was a very interesting article in uns.com basically drawing some of the parallels between the Nashville bombing and the Oklahoma City bombing and emphasizing all of the little aspects that make it look like this was another government cover-up. But one of the things they pointed out goes back to Oklahoma and General Benton Parton, who was a military explosives expert who submitted a report to 75 members of the House and Senate saying that the truck bomb could not have done the damage to the Murrah building that was shown, that there had to be additional explosives involved there. And as a matter of fact, early media reports from Oklahoma City talked about multiple explosives and so forth. And so basically this article is saying this recreational vehicle was approximately the same size as a Ryder truck, and could presumably hold the same amount of explosives. The damage that it did to the AT&T building was nowhere near as severe as the Murrah building, thereby proving General Parton was correct all along. So anyway, getting on to election fraud. And as we come up on January 6th, this is going to be an issue everybody's going to be talking about. They're not getting away from it here. Apparently up in Pennsylvania, the certified results for the presidential election were found to be in error, and the error is twice the size of the difference between Biden and Trump. And so, again, more problems coming out of Pennsylvania. There are apparently dozens of members of the House of Representatives who are going to object to accepting the Electoral College votes on January 6th. Unfortunately, no senators have stepped forward yet. So it's probably going to be more symbolic than anything else. I mean, barring some kind of a miracle, I'm afraid we're going to be stuck with Biden for the next 4 years, or until Kamala Harris takes over here. Another story, this one coming out of the Gateway Pundit here. Apparently, California violated its own election laws as well, which means its certification, technically, under the law, should be null and void. And apparently, this is just one of many states that violated their own law in the 2020 election results, and then turned around and said, these are, this is certified, it's accurate, Biden won, get over it, so forth and so on. Another little article, this one coming out of Investment Watch blog, pointing out the fact that a total tally of all the votes and voters shows 14.7 million more ballots than there were voters. And that right there tells you the scale of the fraud that was used to steal the White House from Donald Trump here. Now, Sidney Powell last Saturday released a 270-page PDF file detailing the fraud and foreign interference in the 2020 presidential election. And it's an explosive document. Apparently she released it after multiple attempts in the courts failed to get the desired results. So apparently Sydney is taking it to the court of public opinion. And there's a lot of information in there. And that is one of the biggest problems we're having to deal with. The courts are an absolute goose step in not looking at any of the evidence of fraud. Now, the Democrats and the corporate media are saying, well, you know, the evidence was rejected. The evidence was never looked at. They never looked at it. They hid behind technicalities and excuses and way off, you know, post inauguration deadlines and everything to not have to look. And that's why from now on, I'm referring to the Supreme Court as justices see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. Now, Representative Mo Brooks is accusing GOP members as being quitters, including Adam Kinzinger, who are unwilling to do their homework on the massive fraud in 2020. Sorry about that. The fact of the matter is that Trump was not getting a lot of support from the Republican Party on this issue. And they basically bailed on him. They betrayed him. It's shameful. You know, they're all thinking about their own best interests. They probably all made secret deals somewhere to stand down and you know, let Trump be taken out of the office. Now, there's an article that came out of stationgossip.com, and it's about Chris Langan, who is thought by many to be the most intelligent man in the world. His IQ is somewhere between 195 and 210, even higher than mine. Apparently, he's absolutely convinced the 2020 election was stolen, and he's recommending a do-over free from fraud. Good luck on getting that one. There is an article out of, again, Station Gossip here. A lot of attention is being focused on Mike Pence, who will preside over the joint session of Congress on January 6th. And basically, a lot of people are saying under the 12th Amendment, Pence can basically decide to ignore some of the electors from, you know, the states where fraud has been documented to have taken place. And as a matter of fact, Representative Louis Gohmert and President Trump's defeated electors from Arizona have launched a lawsuit that may force Mike Pence to publicly pick a side in Trump's bid to expose the fraudulent 2020 election. So apparently Gohmert sued Pence in federal court yesterday in a long shot bid to throw out the rules that govern Congress counting of electoral votes next week. It's an effort they hope will permit Pence to simply ignore President-elect Biden's electors and count Trump's losing slates instead. Now, here's where things are getting interesting, and we don't know what's going on, but apparently on January 6th, immediately following that joint session of Congress, Mike Pence is going to hop on a plane and fly overseas. Now, he's going to places like Israel and Bahrain. He's basically getting out of Dodge is what he's doing. And people are trying to figure out, you know, what's this all about? Is he going to be dodging the press? Is he going to do something that's really going to upset a lot of people? And so it looks like he's going to skedaddle as soon as he can here. Another story from Investment Watch blog. Apparently, a billionaire has offered a $1 million bounty for proof of Dominion's Eric Coomer fraud intelligence. So the rewards are piling on up for somebody to basically blow the whistle on this whole situation. We could easily wind up in a situation where the 2020 election is proven fraudulent after Biden is in office, and that will provoke a constitutional crisis because outside of impeachment, there's no way to remove a sitting president, you know, if the election by which he took office is proven to be fraudulent. Okay, apparently House lawmakers voted to override President Trump's veto of the $740 billion defense bill. And apparently this was late last night. The vote was 322 to 87. Now the Senate also has to vote to override Trump's veto. They're probably going to vote a little bit later this week. A big sticking point in the defense bill was, of course, the repeal or revising of Section 230 of the 1996 Communications Decency Act. Now, we have already seen where President Trump has been issuing a lot of pardons, and it's raised a lot of eyebrows. But Michael Cohen has raised an interesting point that maybe Trump wasn't really thinking very carefully. Because they have been pardoned, they cannot invoke the Fifth Amendment, and they could be called to testify against Donald Trump. And that is, he's made a very, very valid point here. All righty, getting on over to the Bidens here. Another story, this one is coming out of Blabberbuzz. Democrats, along with their associates in Silicon Valley and the news media, are still working to contain the Hunter Biden story, despite growing evidence that Biden's son had secret, profitable financial bonds with oligarchs and a powerful communist-connected Chinese businessman. Some have dubbed the organized effort Hunter's Not Here as a play on President Trump's election rally call, Where's Hunter? And this has been going on since September. Apparently over at the Washington Post, there was an article that came out just today calling the scandal just laptop stuff, because it came from the laptop, but they clearly have not looked at what is on that laptop, especially those videos here. Now, Rudy Giuliani has come on out and said that Hunter Biden is only the beginning, that the network of corruption and crime extends to pretty much the entire family. So, again, this could wind up getting really, really ugly in the new year here. Meanwhile, John Paul Mac Isaac, who's the owner of the computer repair shop where Hunter Biden left his laptop, is now suing Twitter for defamation. And the Twitter basically labeled the New York Post story about the Biden and the laptop was labeled as potentially coming from hacked material. And John Paul Mac Isaac says that's defamation. And so he has filed a lawsuit. And I hope he wins. Anyway, now Thomas Massie, a Republican, and Tulsi Gabbard, a Democrat, are teaming up to introduce a bipartisan bill designed to repeal the Patriot Act. And they're proposing legislation to limit government surveillance that takes place without warrants and probable cause. And the fact of the matter is, for all the years that we've had the Patriot Act, they haven't thwarted or caught a single terrorist. Every time you hear about a terrorist cell being arrested, it turns out to be some sting set up by the FBI, where they go out and find some losers and, get them riled up and give them money and bombs and stuff, and then swoop in to make the arrest to generate the headlines here. Anyway, so the bill is called the Protect Our Civil Liberties Act. It wants to repeal both the Patriot Act and the FISA Amendments Act, which allow government agencies to indiscriminately collect data on every American citizen. In a video announcement on her Twitter account, Gabbard said the bill would see that Congress re-examines how best to strike a balance of protecting our national security interests while also ensuring that the constitutional rights of every single American is preserved. Because after all, that Fourth Amendment is there for a reason, to protect your privacy. Okay, little bit of interesting news coming out of Michigan. Apparently, a county board in Michigan has approved a vote to impeach the current governor, Gretchen Whitmer. They voted 4-2 in favor of the motion. This was Kalkaska County, and they took the vote in favor of impeachment proceedings, which now means the resolution will be brought before the Michigan State Legislature, which will have to decide Whitmer's fate as governor. And apparently the issue are Whitmer's unconstitutional executive orders, which she claimed were justified due to the pandemic, and she may get the boot for that now. Speaking of pandemic, let's talk a little bit about COVID-19. It is still out there. The latest scientific research is showing that 9 out of 10 COVID-19 deaths could have been prevented if only the victims had lots of vitamin D3 or been out in the sun more rather than listening to Anthony Fauci and panicking. Vitamin D deficiency, it turns out, significantly increases a person's risk of dying with COVID-19, and most Americans are vitamin D deficient, sad to say. Okay. The vitamin D prohormone helps to prevent the type of hyperinflammation that comes about from a COVID-induced cytokine storm, according to the latest data. Vitamin D also helps to protect against the need for a ventilator, a high-risk Western medical intervention that has been known to kill patients who are admitted to the hospital after testing positive for the virus. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and I mentioned this yesterday in the context of my being exposed to COVID by my doctor. And according to a study of 10 million people, and this was reported in Big League Politics, they did a study of 10 million people and did not find any signs of asymptomatic transmission of COVID-19. And the paper is titled Post-Lockdown SARS-CoV-2 Nucleic Acid Screening in Nearly 10 Million Residents of Wuhan, China. It was published in Nature Communications. These 10 million people were screened between May 14th and June 1st. They found 300 asymptomatic cases, and testing of their close contacts revealed negative results. No positives, meaning there was no asymptomatic transmission of COVID-19. Now, that may be a good thing because when I was exposed to my doctor, she was asymptomatic. She didn't develop symptoms for 2 days later. So we'll see what's happening there. And everybody is grabbing onto COVID-19 for their own agenda. Apparently, over in Germany, there's a member of their parliament, Karl Lauterbach, and basically said that the restrictions for COVID-19, masks and lockdowns, should continue to fight human-caused climate change. Boy, that's really kind of out there. Here's a good one here. This is coming out of Zero Hedge. The chief scientist at the World Health Organization is warning there is no evidence COVID vaccine prevents viral transmission. They're saying that if you have the vaccine, you can still get COVID, you can still pass it on. All they're claiming is that the vaccination will reduce the symptoms. Well, that doesn't seem like a very, very useful vaccine, especially when you consider the thousands and thousands of negative reactions people are having to this vaccine. Anyway, these comments were made by the World Health Organization chief scientist Soumya Swaminathan during what appears to have been a virtual press conference held just yesterday. Now, here's an interesting wrinkle, and we know that Pope Francis has been very much pushing a lot of liberal causes here, but now he's signing up with the CDC and the World Health Organization and basically saying, you should get the COVID vaccinations. It's not a sin because they contain aborted baby components. And it's kind of weird for the head of the Catholic Church to tell everybody not to rely on the natural immunity God supposedly gave them. So he's out there saying, yes, get that needle out there, going to go to the dark places if you don't get your vaccine here. Okay, we're coming up here on our first commercial break. We're going to take a few minutes away from the radio show, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to our show here. And Republic Broadcasting Network needs a vaccination of money. It is struggling to survive right now, and we rely on you to keep us going, doing what we're doing. So once again, the postal address where you can send a check money order, or if you prefer anonymity, cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And all of this information, of course, is at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. The network thanks you. Now, getting on back to COVID-19, if you are going to actually get that shot, if you're coerced into it, if you actually believe the vaccine is going to work, doesn't really matter. If you get the shot, watch what they're doing very carefully, because over in Germany, there were 8 care home employees that were injected with 5 times the recommended dose of the Pfizer vaccine. 4 of them have been hospitalized with COVID-like symptoms. And, Pfizer insists the mega dose is safe, but these people are in the hospital with COVID symptoms. And that seems kind of a little bit weird. I mean, I think back to my doctor who got the COVID vaccination. Next thing you know, she's got COVID. So, I mean, again, 1976 here. Apparently, the COVID-19 vaccines have killed 7 infants in Senegal. So, I ain't getting that shot. Now, we've talked about this before. This is an article out of the Washington Examiner here, and they're basically talking about how the CDC is reporting record low positive flu tests. And they're saying as the coronavirus cases surge nationwide, the flu has seen a remarkable dip. Remember, earlier in the year, they were talking about the double threat of flu and coronavirus. What I think is going on is that a lot of flu cases were being diagnosed, misdiagnosed, reported as COVID because there was a financial incentive in that. And again, there's no way to explain this dip in the flu numbers here. And, the thinking is that social distancing and the masks are stopping the flu. I don't think so. I think something else going on here. The CDC has now updated their guidelines and admitted masks don't work, that if you are in close contact with someone for 15 minutes or more, you can catch the COVID virus from them. And of course, the corporate media is completely ignoring this. And according to the CDC, anyone who has symptoms or tests positive, is a risk to others even if masks are worn. And the masks have come at a cost. And I'm not talking about what you spent out of your pocket to get them. Apparently, more than 1.5 billion with a B masks have found their way into the environment this last year. Apparently, they're flooding our oceans. And once plastic enters the marine environment, it's very difficult to remove. And of course, my comment all along has been, if these masks are really trapping COVID-19 virus particles, shouldn't they have been treated as biohazard waste, collected in special bins and incinerated? But apparently not here. Another story, this one is coming from, AIER. The type is too small on this thing. And basically, it's saying that the experience in other countries is showing lockdowns don't seem to work. And, we're 7 months, actually 9 months into the global pandemic, and the United States has the worst response on all counts, from minimizing deaths to protecting the economy to preserving civil liberties. And as cases rise and fall across the states, governors are considering or have already reinstated the lockdown measures. But apparently, they're not working in a lot of places. And one that's really out there is California. California has one of the most militant lockdowns. I mean, they're sending police out to arrest people for violating the lockdown, which makes the street criminals happy as all get out. And there's this article And this is from Zero Hedge. People are fed up. California is out of excuses. And apparently the coronavirus is defying the lockdown out there. And again, may have been the wrong solution. Remember, it was admitted the other day that they just copied what China did, and that was the entire justification for these lockdowns, which have decimated our economy. Okay, we got to take another break for commercial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking about COVID-19. We're talking about the lockdowns. We're talking about the protests here. And apparently over in London, the Metropolitan Police have hit the organizer of an anti-lockdown protest with a $13,000 fine for violating the Tier 4 restrictions that have been brought in because of the rapid rise in reported cases of COVID-19. And so they're sending out a warning saying anyone coordinating intentional breaches have to know there will be penalties here. And anyway, here's where it gets a little bit scary. Apparently, Spain is going to launch a registry for those who refuse the COVID vaccination, and they will share it with the rest of the European Union. And this kind of reminds me of like the sex offender registry. If you're on the registry, we're going to shun you. We don't want you in our neighborhood. And again, it's ugly. It's ugly. And apparently Spain did this in response to this wave of high priority patients who are refusing to take the vaccine because of all the problems that it's already showing. All righty, now, Joe Biden, and by the way, at the start of the show, he was giving a speech about COVID-19 and the 100 days of wearing a mask, and how we're going to see the numbers really skyrocket because of the Christmas and New Year's, where people didn't stay in their homes the way they were told to. And I noticed he had a big sign behind him, Office of the President-elect, trying to remind us all that, he stole the election. But apparently he has announced that he's going to use the Defense Production Act to boost the production of coronavirus vaccine. And this was revealed yesterday. And they're basically responding to doubts about Donald Trump's timelines of everybody being vaccinated by June. Well, I can tell you right now, not everyone will be vaccinated by June because neither Claire nor I are going to get that shot. Anyway, apparently over in California again, police raid a Stockton hair salon for daring to open amid Newsom's shutdown order. And my previous comment applies. While the police are out there raiding salons and enforcing the lockdowns, the street criminals are having a field day. There aren't enough cops to do both jobs, so they're taking police away from law enforcement and crime prevention and crime solving to, basically make sure we're all sitting in our homes like obedient little puppies. Now, there was a video that came on out. This is over at Cuz Blue. And apparently there was a woman who was confronted in a store for not wearing a mask. And she basically said, I'm not saying COVID is not real. I'm saying I'm not sick. I'm not sick, and asymptomatic spread has shown to be a myth, so why am I treated like a sick person? That's a lie, and everybody's buying it. I'm done. Tonight I reached a breaking point, and I'm done. And good for her, and more people are starting to say that here. Again, you've got the World Health Organization and the CDC admitting the masks don't really work anyway. A lot of people are making money making masks. And it gets even worse than that. Apparently over in St. Louis on Christmas Day, there was a woman who was told by a sheriff's deputy to put on a mask, and she grabbed the sheriff's deputy's baton and beat her with it in the parking lot. So, yeah, people have definitely reached the breaking point. All righty. LBC radio host and anti-extremism activist Majid Nawaz is urging Brits not to be scared into supporting another coronavirus lockdown, saying they do more harm than good. That's certainly true. And apparently got a lot of praise online for saying that. On his show yesterday, he said, lockdowns kill. It's as simple as that. Okay. Now, another story, this one is out of Scoopy Web. Apparently, SAGE, that's the British coronavirus response team, is saying that secondary school reopening will be delayed by at least an extra week, but the primaries will open on schedule. The concern is a coronavirus spike caused by the mutant strain that can spread more easily among children. Now, contradicting that are stories coming on out saying that this new so-called horrible mutant strains are no more infectious than the existing one. In New York City, 12,000 students who signed up for in-classroom learning will be forced to take remote lessons because parents fail to sign consent forms for weekly random testing. And so they're banned from school for not consenting to this testing of 12,000 students. And you can just feel the pushback here. Now, Senator Marco Rubio slammed U.S. health officials Sunday for assuming that the majority of Americans don't know what's good for them and tricking people into doing what the elites want them to do when it comes to COVID. Well, they do it for things outside of COVID. But Rubio singled out Dr. Anthony Fauci, noting that the epidemiologist has consistently misled the public. And Rubio has pointed out something that we really have wrong with our society, in that the rulers and the elite actually believe the American people don't know what's good for them, so they have to be tricked or coerced into doing the right thing. Of course, they get to decide what the right thing is here, and that's what led us to that disaster in 1976 with the swine flu vaccine. Turning now to the international news here. Apparently, Turkey is turning into quite a superstar from all of the division and hostility in the region. And according to Pablo Escobar, Turkey is now pivoting to the center of the new great game. All righty. Trump, apparently, his parting shot was an EO. Actually, the $2.3 trillion spending package Trump signed on Sunday night included provisions centered on Tibet policy and Support Act and the Taiwan Assurance Act. China reacted fiercely, saying it's anti-China, and that they're saying they absolutely refuse to accept that. So there's a little tension there. Israel is going to greenlight settlement construction ahead of the inauguration of Biden, according to a television report Saturday night. The defense ministry body responsible for authorizing settlement construction is expected to convene in the next 2 weeks to advance plans for building in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. So Israel's just charging ahead with taking more land. Meanwhile, apparently early Sunday morning, hundreds of Israeli settlers attacked Palestinian homes, businesses, and vehicles in the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood of East Jerusalem. Now, this is a neighborhood that's been designated by Israeli authorities as an area to be colonized by Israeli settlers, and the past several years have seen numerous and violent assaults against Palestinians and Palestinian property. And apparently Israeli settlers threw rocks at Palestinian vehicles traveling on Route 60 north of Ramallah in the West Bank here. Getting on over to Iran, they are vowing a massive response if Israel crosses the red lines with a submarine presence in the Gulf. Now, we're just 3 weeks to go, little over 3 weeks, until Biden steals the Oval Office. And tensions in the Persian Gulf are at a boiling point, not only with the presence of a U.S. nuclear submarine, but allegedly a major Israeli presence as well. And Iran is starting to feel like an attack is coming. I'm in agreement there. And apparently Iran is taking it very, very seriously because they're building up the air defense systems near their nuclear sites over possible U.S. strikes. And when I say nuclear sites, we're talking about the power plant. We're talking about the uranium enrichment facility that supports that nuclear power plant. Everything Iran is doing, they're allowed to do under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Act, and nobody has presented any evidence whatsoever that Iran is doing anything else. But Iran understands that those facilities will be hit the way that Israel destroyed Iraq's nuclear power station at Osirak. So they're strengthening their defense systems, and they're basically getting ready. They're expecting a fight. Meanwhile, down in Australia, there is a senator there, Jim Molan, and he's expecting conflict to break out between the United States and China very soon, and very soon to him is between 3 and 5 years. I think it's probably going to be sooner than that. And he basically said on a TV interview, we are likely in the next 3 to 5 years or in the next 5 to 10 years to be involved in a war between China and the United States. Everybody can see what's coming here. Story coming out of the original antiwar.com here. Apparently, experts on the adverse effects of the military-industrial complex blasted a plan by the Trump administration to sell nearly $500 million worth of advanced U.S. bombs to Saudi Arabia, which for over 5 years has been leading an airstrike campaign and starvation blockade in Yemen. Now, Bloomberg reports the State Department has notified Congress of the intention to license the sale of some 7,500 Raytheon Paveway precision-guided air-to-ground munitions, valued at $478 million, despite its status as one of the worst human rights violators in the world and prolific perpetrator of U.S.-backed war crimes in Yemen. Now, the Paveway is a laser-guided bomb. And you go on in, you shine the laser, you drop the bomb follows the laser beam, and you hit the target that you want to hit here. Meanwhile, in a speech yesterday, Joe Biden called for modernizing the U.S. defenses to face Russia and China. More money for what's going on there. And Biden also addressed the recently discovered hack of the software company SolarWinds that affected several government agencies. And he said we have to be able to innovate, to reimagine our defenses against growing threats in new realms like cyberspace. We're still learning about the extent of the SolarWinds hack and the vulnerabilities that have been exposed. He said this is a grave risk to our national security. Well, he's right about that one here. All right, getting into some economic news here. Last night, the House of Representatives voted to override President Trump's veto of the $740 billion defense policy bill, putting it on track to be the first legislation to become law over Trump's objections. At the same time, they voted to increase the coronavirus stimulus checks to $2,000. Now it goes to the Senate and then hopefully to Trump for his signature. Now, it's a rather interesting number, 2,000, because earlier today, the Biden transition team announced there will be major tax increases next year. And they calculated that the average tax increase for a middle-class family in the United States will be, drum roll please, $2,000. So they're going to hand with one hand, and with the other hand, they're going to take it back here. Now, getting back to the House of Representatives, I'm sorry, the Senate rather, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blocked an attempt by Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to force a unanimous consent vote on raising the pandemic relief from $600 to $2,000. And Schumer was attempting to fast track the bill. Well, apparently McConnell had a change of heart because we got an update saying that this week they will vote on the Trump demand for $2,000 and for voter fraud hearings. Well, that will be a good thing. But let's be honest, you know, after 9 months of lockdowns, even $2,000 isn't really going to help all these struggling American households and businesses, especially when the government plans on taking it back next year. It really is, it's duplicitous to say the least here. Okay. Apparently, the European Union and China are getting ready to sign a mutual investment deal, and it's drawing criticism from here in the United States of America, and because of the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. And basically, they're just trying to keep China from doing more business, because right now experts are saying China will overtake the U.S. economy by 2028, which will be the beginning of the demise of the dollar as a global currency. So it's nasty out there. Apparently, Congress has passed legislation making the Secretary of the Treasury the boss of the Federal Reserve during a financial crisis that will in turn create its own crisis. So it's getting weird out there. Okay, Coca-Cola, as part of a restructuring plan, will cut 2,200 jobs worldwide. So they're not doing very well. Probably that guy in Austria who ran a COVID test on Coca-Cola and it came out positive may have something to do with it. Over in Tesla land, things are not doing very well. Apparently, a Tesla owner reported his 2015 Model S erupted like a flamethrower in the middle of a Texas road when the battery exploded. This is reviving old safety concerns about the electric sedans. Now, Usman Ahmed told the Washington Post he had just pulled off a thoroughfare in Frisco on November 23rd when he heard a series of loud metallic bangs emanating from beneath his car. He's pulled over to the side of the road and his car ignited into flames. Not a good thing to have happening. All righty, we're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with more news after these two words. Back to our show here, and we're going to go ahead and open the phone lines, area code 512-248-8252. Now, here's an interesting little story. Apparently, there was a bust sculpture honoring police shooting victim Breonna Taylor, and apparently was installed 2 weeks ago in downtown Latham Square, was vandalized, was violently smashed in several places sometime on Saturday, and you know, the liberals are just going completely out of their mind. How dare you? How dare you? And these are the same liberals, you know, who said nobody should complain when all the Civil War statues were being taken down, and the monuments were being taken down, you know, but when it's Breonna Taylor, the liberals are outraged. You know, this can't happen, you know, and a little bit of hypocrisy, I think, on their part here. And I don't agree with the vandalization of the bus, by the way. Okay, I think it was a terrible thing to do, but it did underscore the hypocrisy that we see from liberalism. Okay, apparently for the rest of this week, there is a major winter storm. It's going to sweep across the U.S., bringing with it heavy snow, high winds, and thunderstorms, potentially covering the East Coast with snow and rain on New Year's Eve. They're predicting rain, possible snow here tomorrow as well. And apparently it's two distinct low-pressure systems. And the first low-pressure system is expected to extend from Southern California to the plains and Midwest in the first half of this week. So, gosh darn that human-caused global warming here. All right, we're going to take a phone call now. Don in Arizona. Hello, Don. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Mike, I see at least one flaw in this whole theory that they're going to try to give everybody this vaccine. For one thing, a lot of these medical professionals already are saying, "No way, you're not going to give it to us." And people are just going to refuse. But there's another thing too. They've said don't get it if you have a food allergy. So a lot of people, 1 or 2% of the people in America have food allergies. So are they going to say, well, these people can never fly on an airplane? These people can never buy a ticket to some kind of a rock concert?
Apparently, I mean, I don't think they've really worked out all the details. I think the goal is to get as many people this shot as possible. Given that, we have people that get too much of the vaccine coming down with COVID symptoms, the vaccine seems to be bordering on worthless for COVID-19. And so you have to wonder, what is it really doing to us? And of course, Bill Gates is up to his neck in this.
It's insanity.
Bill Gates has been advocating the use of vaccination as population control, and I'm starting to think that this could be a big part of it. Listen, Don, I'm going to hold you over. Stay on the line. We'll be right back after station identification. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. We're talking with Don in Arizona, and Don, just kind of pick up where you left off.
Well, that was a massive understatement when you said they haven't worked out all the details yet. They just, and in fact, who is in charge was what I would like to know. Is it Bill Gates? Is it Soros? Like this lady. You saw that? I don't know if you saw that video. This lady in Canada. She said, "Oh, I just read what they give me." Who gives it to them? Who gives it? Who gives them that stuff to read? Because they're all reading the same thing. They're saying, "I beg you to wear a mask." Where's this? Who exactly is the boss? And you say some people made. I want to shift gears now. Remember, Dustin used to say that all the time. I want to shift gears. And the great Dustin from New Jersey. And you said some people are making money off of masks. I always had the suspicion that was what Dustin did. He probably had a mask factory because he was always pushing the masks on everybody and like he was almost a salesman. He's a mass expert and all that. But I'd like to just leave then with with some words of wisdom from the other great philosopher besides Dustin, the other great philosopher that lives in New Jersey, the great Yogi Berra, who said, and I quote, "When you come to a fork in the road, take it." That's all I got, Mike. Thanks.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot, Don. And we're going to switch to Mo in Florida. Hello, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike. How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
Just a couple things. I mean, every time I call, I missed your show yesterday, so if I'm redundant, then I apologize. But
you didn't.
I got a couple. First of all, I think this, the inventor of the Nobel Prize winner, Kary Mullis. Obviously, everybody that has researched this at all knows that he said this PCR test is never to be used for any kind of testing for viruses. It doesn't do that. It just magnifies a few genetic codes. And that's not why he proposed it. He called Fauci basically a crook. Did you ever see that video, Mike, of him talking before he died?
Yeah, I did. I think we posted it to What Really Happened a few days ago.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I mean, there's the inventor of the test saying Fauci's a crook and this is not to be applied. So, and then you look at the masks. I mean, the viruses, or the mask can't block a virus. It's like 1/4 the size of the mask. It's like they say, trying to block mosquitoes with a cyclone fence. It's a joke. The whole thing's a joke. Mm-hmm. It's a hoax. It's pathetic. Now they're trying to come up with this, and I know, that I'm not saying I'm clairvoyant, but I know you've said the same things. And you get back to Aaron Russo when, remember Fascism for Freedom, his movie?
Yes.
Yeah, and he said, Rockefeller said the end result is to get everybody chipped. Well, they already got this thing going on where you got your, your credit and your medical history, and if I've been on the Michael Rivero show, and it's all in a chip, and that's what they want to get it doing. I think that's exactly where it's going. But the real reason why I called in, do you know who this Byrne is, the ex-CEO of Overstock.com?
Oh, yes, we've been hearing a lot from him.
Yeah, did you see that interview he had with Dave Janda, the doctor that has a YouTube channel?
Yes, I did.
Well, that was. I mean, I'm not saying it's true. I don't have any reason not to believe it, but there they are in the Oval Office, almost coming to fisticuffs.
Yes.
And the very attorney that Laura Ingraham recommended to Trump, I forget his name, starts with a C. He's in there all telling Trump to concede. I don't even like what Trump's doing with this vaccine stuff. I mean, I don't think I trust him anymore. I'd rather have him than Biden, just like you. But I mean, they're putting a lot of pressure on this guy to resign from a landslide. Now, my question to you is this, Mike. Let's say he does leave and Biden goes in. Nobody's going to vote again when it's been very obvious to not only the United States but the world that the election was a total fraud. So that's I think what they really want, Mike, is a civil war. And that's the problem. Their action is martial law. The solution is vaccines for everybody or whatever.
Okay, I don't think they want one, but I think they're on their way to getting one. And, Trump probably will not concede, but he will be escorted from the White House. And it's just, it's an unfortunate situation. But, it feels to me like the United States, as we have known it, is in its death throes right now.
Well, I know you always compare it with the Soviet Union collapsing, and I think that's probably fairly close. But I don't see Sidney Powell and Flynn. I know Flynn's a Zionist, but I don't see them backing down. I don't see them just saying, "Go ahead, we're going to leave." I think Flynn. I mean, the man's a general, all right. He's got a lot of connections with the military. I see a bunker. I see a situation where who's going to advance on the White House if Trump doesn't leave and he's got half the military on his side? Who's going to advance and remove him? And under what circumstances? We have an insurrection. Why don't he go ahead and use the Insurrection Act? I don't get that part.
I think he should. I really think he should. And you're right. There could be a violent confrontation on the grounds of the White House. Again, to go back to what you were saying earlier, nobody's going to want to vote again because we know the elections are rigged. So what they're going to do is they're going to make voting mandatory, which is something that you see in countries where the elections are just put on for show to legitimize whoever grabbed power. And that will be coming. In fact, I'll wager a whole nickel that this next year somebody will stand up in Congress and say that voting is now mandatory.
Well, that's I guess the whole thing is the Chinese model. But I just think that I think if you go by the rallies and the Trump rallies, and you go by who Biden, who he had at his rallies, that Trump could support and drum a lot more supporters. I mean, 200 to 1. I don't know. I mean, if he said, Patriots who are with me, what do you think would happen?
It's hard to say. I don't know if, how much of the military would support him. I don't know that the American people are really ready to universally take up arms. But again, I look back at what happened in Romania, where 2 weeks before it all fell apart, anybody visiting that country would have looked around and said, everything's fine. People are happy, and then all of a sudden a sporting event turned into a spontaneous political rally, and 2 weeks later, Ceausescu was machine gunned to death on Romanian national TV. It could happen that fast here.
Yeah, that's true, Mike. The only difference is the internet and the alternative media and sites like yours. They didn't have it then back in Ceausescu's time. We went to the mainstream media, right?
Yes.
I think that's the big game changer. So, I don't know. This is bizarre. I can't imagine just like coming to fisticuffs. He was. I mean, this is like right back to the American Revolution. I don't know. I'm for Trump just because he legally did win. That's all.
Yeah.
You can have a legal election or you're not. Now, you're a Zionist. Okay, well, that's our only two choices. One Zionist and another Zionist. Well, I'll take the Zionist is not going to take my guns, right?
You know, I agree with you on that thing, but again, it all comes down to, do we, the people, actually exert control over our federal government? Because if they get away with this stolen election, then from now on, politicians are going to say, I don't need to worry about what the voters think of me as long as I've got the vote riggers on my side. I'm sure the politicians are already dancing in the streets of Washington, D.C., saying, free at last, thank God I'm free at last.
Yeah, well, remember the French Revolution. That's what I got to say to them. Thanks, Mike.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Mark in North Carolina. Hello, Mark. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
How you doing, Mike? Mike, a lot of things on my mind, but, you know, what this last caller was talking about, I think what you might see is not just the red states that did it all right, did it correctly with votes and all that. You might see some kind of a, maybe not a secession, but let's say a taxpayer revolt. Like this decrepit old fool, this imposter to be. I still don't think he's going to get into the White House, but if he does, if he wants to raise taxes on the middle class.
Yeah, they announced that this morning, was on Fox News. I mean, it's going to be major tax increases, you know, because they don't have to worry about the reaction anymore.
Well, of course, if he doesn't have the Republican Party, if he doesn't have the Senate, he wouldn't be able to do it anyway. But, of course, they may kowtow anyway. But the thing is that what a lot of these states should do, and Texas, of course, would probably be the leader in that, is say a taxpayer revolt. Say, okay, we're not going to pay our federal taxes. Because, you know, they're going to try to use pressure in the states by saying they'll withhold federal funds so the states can just, you know, hit back and say, okay, we won't pay federal taxes, period. We're going to break you. Because this country does not deserve to survive as one country anymore if this theft is allowed to go through. Because this isn't the United States of America anymore. And maybe it is time to have states, you know, that we split in half. We even split into more than half, okay? Because this has just gotten out of control. Again, I'm no fan of Trump. You know, I said it again. I know I'm pissing people off. He has big problems, but he was elected fairly by the American people twice.
Yes.
Okay? And he's certainly many times better than this decrepit old ghoul that he ran against, and his female partner. Okay, he's many times better than that, and this stuff just can't go through. It just can't go through. I've been listening to.
It cannot be allowed to stand. It cannot be allowed to stand.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening to Mike Adams. I get him a BitChute. In his own Patreon, and he's giving updates every day. And he thinks Trump's got, you know, the ammunition that he's going to unload at Biden at the, you know, kind of the last minute. You know, all the corruption and all that, you know, all the stuff that they were trying to hide. But he should do it right now. He shouldn't wait.
Yes, he's running out of time. If he's got something to do, in fact, he should have done it before Christmas.
You know, also, if that doesn't work, Mike Adams thinks that, you know, you're going to have so many people come into Washington, and they're going to make it clear that to these electors, you better not do it, because you could have a revolt right there. There's probably going to be millions of people in Washington on the 6th, because Trump actually asked people to come.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if the cold weather might stop some, or, you know, there's just probably not enough hotel spaces or anything else. But people will probably sleep in their cars and all. I would go too, but I don't have anybody to take care of my dogs, you know?
Okay.
Thanks to this COVID mess, everybody's afraid to go to each other's houses and stuff. So I have nobody to take care of them, and wouldn't be a wise thing to take them along with me, you know?
No, it wouldn't.
So they're not with these crowds and all that, you know? So, you know, they're country dogs. They're not used to being around a lot of people. So, but I'm telling you, this is going to be, this could very well be big. I feel revolution in the air. these lockdowns. People are getting sick, more and more sick and tired of these lockdowns. But I don't understand why people just don't say to these little Napoleons and Hitlers there, these governors, no, we're not going to do it, period. We're going to keep our businesses open, and the police better not interfere unless you want to be the enemy of the people, unless you want to be treated like an occupying army. And a lot of county sheriffs aren't going to go along with this anyway, because a lot of county sheriffs are elected directly. They're all elected directly by the people.
Yes.
And in middle America, most of them, the people do not want these county sheriffs to enforce these disgusting laws. So, I mean, you know, these aren't laws anyway. These are edicts. So I really think there's enough anger out there that, you know, this could happen. Now, I just want to answer one more thing to, you know, what my friend there from Florida said yesterday.
Yes.
Okay. Well, if people want to wear masks, it's their business. Yeah, I agree. You want to put a potato sack over your head, that's your business. I don't care. But you don't tell me what I should wear, okay? You don't got a right to tell me I got to wear a stupid mask, and you don't have a right to tell me I should take one of your poison vaccines, which, by the way, I really believe that vaccine should be taken off the market because, look, I have no intention to take it. And, you know, I talk to a lot of people who have no intention to take it. But this is going to hurt people, okay?
Yeah,
people
already
dumb enough
hurting
to
people.
take this thing. It is. It certainly is. You see the
over in Israel, there was a guy who got the vaccine, and 2 hours later, he died of a heart attack.
No, I'm not surprised. Look at that nurse who got Bell's palsy.
Yep.
Did you see the video of her?
Yeah, we posted that.
This is the most important issue going. This is way more important than who comes across the border right now, okay? This is our freedom. This is how maybe our very lives and keeping the human race, not some kind of, some kind of hybrid, genetically modified version of a human being, okay? This is 1,000 times more important than who comes across the border, okay? This is it. This is our country going to survive or not? There's no other, you know, there's nothing going on right now that's more important than this, Mike. Nothing. This is an assault on the American people. It's an assault on the people of the world, really. There is no COVID-19. I'm getting the feeling that it's just a hoax, probably some kind of series of cold viruses that they say to people, oh, this is a hoax. They're making it up, okay? Might have been it could have been a biological weapon, but I have my doubts about that even. I think this is basically something they just made up, and now they're just trying to scare. And now they're coming up with this mutated nonsense. It's all BS. You got all these cowards. Every time they get the sniffles, they run to these medical centers and get tested. And God knows that they're putting up their nose on top of it. Stop being tested, folks. Stop with the masks. And don't take the vaccines. Don't you people understand? Look who's behind it. Bill Gates, a mass murderer. He's a serial killer. He's got the mind of a serial killer because that's exactly what he is. And Fauci is one of his stooges. Gates is Hitler. Fauci is Dr. Mengele. All right? Don't you people understand that? Stop testing. Stop masking. For God's sake, please don't take the vaccine. And don't give it to your kids, for crying out loud. Please. I'm begging you all. I don't like to sound like that. I know I sound a little crazy when I talk like this, but I'm not. I'm just very emotional about this, Mike. I see what's going on, and it bothers me. This is my country. I love this country. I don't care about, I'm not a globalist. I want this country to survive, even if the rest of the world is stupid enough to do some of this stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to see any country, destroying
There's
itself.
another aspect to all of this. The courts have consistently ruled that DNA that is found in nature cannot be patented. But if this vaccine alters our DNA, then we're looking at a possibility of, pharmaceutical companies starting to patent segments of our DNA or the whole thing. They may even demand royalty payments or something. I mean, it's a little out there. but I mean, that could be part of the ramifications.
Sure. And what gets me is the way that the mainstream media is trying to cover all this up. You have to find this stuff out online. Now it's coming out anyway, like the nurse, the nurse that fell out, the other nurse that got the Bell's palsy, and some of the other stuff that's coming out about the allergies and all that. It is coming out. It is. They can't keep it down anymore.
No, they can't.
So hopefully people are going to get smart. And if this imposter Biden gets in, okay, just resist him. Treat him like the bad joke that he is.
Mark, I got to let you go. Mark, I got to let you go. I'm sorry. We've got to take a commercial break. We got other callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back. Here, we're going to go back to the phones here to Sebastian in Sweden. Hello, Sebastian. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Sebastian, are you there? Mike. There you are.
Hello, do you hear me? Yeah.
I hear you.
Oh, yeah, I was just wanted to mention. Okay, thank you. The day before Christmas Eve, Google closed down one of the best alternative media channels on YouTube in Sweden. And, you know, even to defy, Sweden has a Freedom of Expression Act here, believe it or not. Utan frihet. But you know, but I mean, it's in even it's not like the Constitution. They call it the basic law, grundlag. You know, but you know, I can't translate. But anyway, the government first got with Google in 2000 before the 2018 election. And the minister, the Justice Minister Morgan Johansson, Social Democrat, of course, he called on Google and Facebook to conduct voluntary censorship on the internet on behalf of the state.
Okay,
that's just like, you know, like in the old USSR, or you know, it's Nazi. But anyway, that's one thing. That's the latest news here in Sweden. And another thing, I agree with that previous call. I think he said something like that. And I know there's going to be a march on Washington, because I think this election in America is so important, not only for Americans, but for all people all over the world that, you know, to look at America as a freedom, you know, the home of the brave, the land of the free. You know, so I think it's important that I hope there's millions on the 6th of January, but I think there should be a protest on the 20th. If Biden becomes inaugurated on the 20th, just millions and millions and millions, truckers, bikers, tractors from farmers, just to, you know, to block the Beltway, 495. No weapons, of course, but just to show just like BLM in the democratic cities, you have to show your detest of this travesty of the election. It's horrible.
Yes, it is.
And then the last but not least, my good news, coming from Finland at least. Yes. The government of Finland has got every citizen, which is about 5.5 million people in Finland, population, of the COVID vaccine insured. If something happens to them, they have a right to get, compensation.
Okay.
Lifetime compensation. If a guy can't go to work for the rest of his life, he gets compensation. And that's the first time I've ever heard a country going in, you know, of doing that for this vaccine. I haven't heard any other country doing that.
Well, it's a good idea, because I mean, we're seeing thousands and thousands of people with adverse reactions severe enough where they can't go to work, they can't go through their daily routine, and you know, in some cases, people are dying from it, apparently.
Yeah, I know, and I'm one of the ones on the allergy ones that's not going to get it.
Okay.
Myself. So, but anyway, you take care, and hope you have a happy New Year, and same with Claire.
I certainly will.
Take care of yourself.
I certainly will. Thank you very much here. Okay, we're coming up on another commercial break, and before I get back to the phones here, share a little bit of good news. As I mentioned before, Claire and I got retested for COVID on Sunday, and the results just now, this minute, came on in. We both tested negative, so that's breathing a sigh of relief, not just for Claire and I, but also for my doctor, who's, dealing with a lot of issues with COVID herself. And, the last thing she needs is to know that she gave some of her patients, in particular her uncle, that she gave him COVID. So that didn't happen here. And let's get a little news here before the commercial break here. Then we'll get back to the phones. 2 earthquakes have been reported near the southern Oregon coast. No tsunami threat. The first was 5.7 magnitude, and then a 3.2 magnitude. They were widely separated, so one is not an aftershock of the other, but it sort of indicates that Cascadia fault may be getting ready to let go. The big quake, though, was 6.4 in Croatia, and as of the last time I checked, 5 people were killed in that. There's been a lot of damage. They don't exactly have a quake building code over there, so they're still digging out from that. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, there's a story from Universe Today talking about how water could exist in the liquid state on the surface of Mars if it is briny enough. And again, this is going back to something that's already been known because photos from some of the rovers showed liquid water sitting on the surface of Mars years and years ago. And they're just now sort of admitting that, as it were, here. Okay, we're going to take a break for commercials. The phone lines are just loaded up, and we'll be right back after these few words. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones to Angel in New York City. Angel, thank you for waiting patiently. What's on your mind today?
Sure. This is in reference to the Resurrection Act. Due to the fact that Trump was elected and it's fraud, I don't think he should step down. And reference to the military, when I was in the service, the U.S. Air Force, the military is supposed to go against communism. I don't think they're going to back a communist president. And as far as vaccines go, I heard that a lot of cases was filed against the World Health Organization. There's a gentleman that wanted me, we probably heard of him, of course you heard of him, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He wanted me to be a delegate for New York City when he's running for president. He has a website, I'm working on him now, and he has a website called, he's a law website called Madonna and Kennedy, and he has a telephone number there, so you may want to contact him. It's Kennedy and Madonna website, Kennedy Madonna Law Firm, and he's doing a lot of things in reference to vaccinations. Personally, myself, I'm running for mayor in New York City. I'm working with the FDA, that's the New York City Fire Department. A couple of months ago, you had the architect and engineers on. I'm working with their also.
Can you slow down just a little bit so it's easier to understand you?
Okay.
Sure.
A couple of months ago. Okay, a couple of months ago, you had architect and engineers. Their website, ae911truth.org.
Yep.
What happened is last year, 4 fire commissioners from New York City are working with them, so I jumped in and trying to help them. I'm working directly with the FDNY headquarters and them trying to get some exposure on the investigation. That's what's going on,
Yes.
My nickname is Angel, but my legal name is Farazon Starlight, and I'm presently running for mayor of New York City, so everybody knows me worldwide, But that's why I had to say. But I think he should stay in there. I don't think he should step down. He's not going to step down. And the military is not going to back the communist government. So I listen to you all the time. So, by the way, at 12 o'clock last night, the show that came on, this guy's talking about vaccines. I happened to hear it. He's very, very, very good. He had a lot of information. So I think you should check out the RBN tonight at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, New York City. Take care, people.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. Good luck with your mayoral campaign. And we're going to switch to Al in Canada. Al, welcome to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Mark, you don't sound like a lunatic. You sound like someone that's had enough of this crap. I sent you an email, Mike.
Yes,
even up here in Canada, there's some politicians that aren't crooked. So this one fella, he's a councillor in municipality of York, which is in Toronto, and it's 2-part. 2-minute videos, right? There's 4 minutes altogether. Basically what he says is, and this is on December 17th, just before they locked us down.
Yes.
And we're in a lockdown right now. There are 140 people on ventilators in Ontario, and they have the capacity for 2,811 people to be on ventilators in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
They have 20,354 acute beds in Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
And less than 5% of hospital capacity is being used as of December 17th, just before they locked us down. The second part, and this is the part I love, this guy says democracy is like a wolf and a sheep deciding what to eat, and justice is a well-armed sheep.
Yes, I've heard that saying before.
I love that. This guy should be the prime minister of this country because he understands what the hell's going on here. This is just bullshit. Oh, pardon me. This is bull crap.
Don't curse on this here radio.
Bull crap. I'm sorry, Mike. 50 lashes with a wet noodle.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's not just the United States that's having to deal with this crap. I mean, I don't understand. You know what, Mike? The back of my throat for the last couple of days has been tingling. You know, like that. You know that feeling you get when you get a cold?
Yes.
You get the phlegm build up in the back of the throat.
Yes.
And I got the sneezes, right? And I've had this for a couple of days now. It hasn't gotten worse. But I'm not working right now. So, do I have COVID? No, I got a cold.
Yeah.
I've got a cold, and that's what it is. It's a cold. And I'm well into my 50s here.
Yes.
So
spring chicken there.
You know, this is just, I don't understand it. I mean, I understand it. I just don't understand why people put up with this stuff. I can't understand why they do this. They've been so. What's that word you've used before? What condesized or something? What did you call that?
Conditized.
Conditized
after Gary Condit.
Oh, conditized. Okay. So we're supposed to believe, this official narrative, which is actually crapola. They just keep making this stuff up as they go along.
Yes,
and
they
this
do.
is a fact. It's been over 11 months now since this crapola started up here in Canada, and nothing's changed. We've had over 15,000 deaths. 15,000 people were going to die up here in Canada anyway.
Yes.
It was going to happen no matter what. Same as in the United States. Mike, I just don't get it. I really don't. Guys like Mark, you got to stand up. Up here,
yep.
We can't, Mike. We're a bunch of sheep. I mean, they've been paying us like $1,000, not me, because I'm still working, $1,000 every 2 weeks to sit on their butts and do nothing and take this. The debt in this country has skyrocketed. We're going to go bankrupt, and then you know what's going to happen? The IMF's going to swoop in, right? And they're going to save us, and we're going to be part of this UN global government crap. And that's what they're looking for.
Yep.
Right? Exactly what you've been talking about for years. If they can't take us over from outside the country, they do it from within. And Trudeau, he's lucky he's not in this room, because only one of us would be standing, and it wouldn't be him. That's all I got. Okay. That's all I got, Mike. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's switch to Laura in Michigan. Hello, Laura. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Laura, are you there? Hello, Laura. Okay, we lost Laura, so let's go to James in Tokyo. Ohio gozaimasu, o genki desu ka? What's on your mind today?
Yeah, hi, Mike. I want to talk about my forecast about what is going to happen on January 6th.
Okay.
But, first, I wanted to make a couple comments. First of all, I wish you and the lovely harp-playing angel happy holidays.
Thank you very much.
Point number one. You're welcome. Point number 2, I'm very upset with that caller who said that Dustin from New Jersey maybe might be running a mask factory and promoting masks. And I say that because I have absolutely nothing against entrepreneurship. Number 3, about the COVID, I'm happy you and Claire don't have COVID.
Yes.
I actually, I became, I also used to believe it, like your last caller, that it was like, just a cold. But last March, maybe, after I worked out, I felt like really, I always feel very energetic, and I felt very sleepy. Like I just had to lie down and go right away and just to sleep. And I just lied down and went right to sleep. That happened for 2 days. Then for 2 days, I felt really sick. And then I've never felt like that kind of sick before. And then about a month after that, I had this terrible pain in my arm and my shoulder. So I think I could have had it. I don't know. I've never been tested for it, but it's just something that happened to me.
Well, if you do get a test, and let me explain something. If you do get a test and you test positive, then you've got an excuse not to get the vaccine because you've already got the antibodies.
Well, they can't force the vaccine here in Japan, fortunately. And I also mentioned to my son, both of them not to get the vaccines. One of my son actually, the Action Story one, he has an allergy to peanuts. The peanut will kill him,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that
probably
was due to a
prior
vaccine.
vaccination.
He agreed. Yeah, he agreed that he's not going to get any type of vaccination because they test him every time for a movie, and every time he's doing a TV show or a movie, they got to get tested here. But but he's not. So I feel, he's listening to me. So I feel a lot. I feel very relieved about that. But I just wanted to give my forecast for what's going to happen on January 6th. And as I respect your opinion so much, I just wanted to hear what you had to say. What you have to say about my premonition for what's going to happen. What I believe is, well, first of all, Trump, he's calling everybody to go to Washington, D.C. for their protest on January 6th. Now, with so many people out of work and having such financial hardship, I don't feel that he's going to ask everybody to come to Washington, D.C., just to take a trip and do a protest to massage his ego and waste everybody's time. I feel there's going to be something more happening. I figure that he's asking the people because if you've got, let's say, a couple 100,000 to 1 million people around the White House, first of all, what it's going to do is going to prevent people like Antifa or other people from going at the White House because it's such a large crowd. So I believe that Mike Pence is going to go, is going to watch Trump's back. He is not going to accept any votes from the 7 contested states, and it will go to a state vote where each state has 1 vote, and Trump will win re-election. That's my forecast.
Could very well happen.
And that's all I wanted to say.
All right. Well, James,
the whole thing would ask people. I don't think he would ask people if it's not going. He would ask people for no reason to come down. The basic reason why. And that's all. And I wish you happy holidays. And
thank you. Same to you. Domaragatto for the phone call here. And we're going to go to Tom in Florida. Hello, Tom. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, aloha, Michael. And Happy New Year to Sebastian and all your callers. Happy New Year to Sebastian for sure. Yeah, Mike. Well, remember, Mike, this saying, "We won, Joe. We won. We won, Joe. We won." You remember that, Mike? You remember that that nonsense with Kamala Harris? Now, listen, Mike. You remember when Biden first started on his tour bus? He was called the Malarkey Tour. No Malarkey.
Yep.
Remember that? It was called the No Malarkey Tour. You talk about it, and bumbling Biden was talking about kids touching his blonde hair, his hairy blonde hair on his legs. And this guy is the commander-in-chief of of our military, if he gets in, which I hope he doesn't. But this imbecile with his son Hunter and his corrupt whole family, and Jill, the wife, who was actually committing adultery against her husband, it looks like. But, Mike, the reason I'm bringing this up is you have the Stacey Abrams today. Did you hear the Stacey Abrams on the news?
Yeah, I heard Stacey Abrams,
And it's utterly disgusting because she's basically saying, you know what, we're going to take all the illegals we can get into Georgia State. We're going to make the state blue permanently. We're going to get all these illegals we can, Mexican, Chinese, whoever they are, bring them here into Georgia, and we love it because we're going to turn the state blue. And shame on white man. White man bad. White man's bad. That's what I'm hearing out of this filthy split-tooth mouth of hers. Her split-mouth tooth, whatever she is, the bubbling freak. And here she's another dirty demon rat like that dirty Irish Joe. He's dirty. He's dirty Irish. Okay, he's not a good Christian man who believes he's phony as all get out. But Mike, and another thing is, and before I go back to Biden, this bombing that happened in Nashville. What would have happened if and this guy saying they're saying this guy was anti-cop and all that. Could you imagine if that guy would have detonated that van, that Winnebago, like in say Portland or Seattle when all that stuff was going down?
Yep.
Can you imagine what would have happened then with the media if he would have detonated right in front of like 5,000 Antifa or BLM people? And this guy's he hated cops, and so he basically he sounds like a Democrat to me. This guy in Nashville, this weirdo. He was I think he worked. I forgot where he worked, electronic, or I forgot what his job title was. But
he wasn't electronic.
Look at the time. Yeah. Look at the timeline of all this nonsense. You have bubbling by with the malarkey tour. His son pulls all kinds of malarkey in the military, gets booted out dishonorably. Okay, dishonorable discharge for smoking crack and cocaine possession. And this guy is going to be the first son of the United States. It's unbelievable. Yep. It's mind blowing. The wife Jill, they call her. She ain't no doctor. All she was an adulteress. Just like Kamala Harris, they act like she didn't get 1% of the Democratic vote, Mike, when she was running for office. And now she's a vice president.
And she's poised to be the president.
Insane. And the first thing that came out of her, we won, Joe. I'm not made me sick, Mike. It was so set up. This thing is all set up. And you got split tooth in Georgia, basically telling the white people in Georgia, we're going to take your state over whether you like it or not. We're going to take that state whether you like it or not. Kiss it, because we're going to bring every illegal we can bring into the state. Chinese, Mexican, Central American, whoever it is. We're going to flood this. And David Perdue and Loeffler don't see that as senators, United States senators. They didn't try to stop this nonsense with the illegal aliens flooding into that state, taking over jobs away from white Americans and black Americans that are Americans. They're taking here. I don't want to hear this crap about, they do jobs white people don't do. That's crap. Who was doing the law and business in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s? That one caller, you know who it is, saying, they do. That's bullcrap. If you paid them a halfway decent wage, they'd do it anyway. And let me tell you, those guys make good money cutting grass, these lawn service. And, Mike, the main thing nobody's ever talking about that calls your show is all these illegals are getting 1% business loans. So if you got a 1% business loan and you took out $200,000, would you love to have that loan, Mike?
Yeah, I'd go for a loan like that. I'd restart my animation business. Anyway, Tom, we're going to have to let you go.
Absolutely.
We got to take a commercial break, and we got another caller waiting on the line, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show, final segment of the program today here on this Tuesday, and we're going to go to the phones to Ken in New York. Hello, Ken. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I think that Giuliani or somebody that's a real civil guy should go and try to break one of these foundations of these trusts, because somebody like Bill Gates isn't he using the foundation of the trust money to suborn treason?
The same thing could be said of George Soros.
Well,
I think
if he did it to one of them, well, it depends on how high profile you are. I mean, he doesn't really need to make, what is he, 76? You know, he could do some swan song and make himself look really good by taking one of these down. And he can make a lot of money at it, too.
Well, it's an interesting idea. I mean, we know that foundations have been used for ill purposes. A good example of that, of course, is the Clinton Foundation, which has managed to hang on to its tax-exempt status, even though it does not fulfill the most basic requirement of a 501c3, which is that 51% of its revenues go for charitable purposes.
Well, their idea of a charitable purpose is bribing everybody.
Well, I'm sure those people being bribed appreciate the charity.
I got one last thing.
Sure.
You're talking about water on Mars. Do you remember Robinson Crusoe on Mars?
Yeah, I remember the movie. Yeah. Yes, it was.
I tell you, in those days, the kind of special effects they used, they seem to do a better job compositing the old way than with computers today.
I would have to disagree with that. I remember, you know, Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Some of it was pretty chintzy. I noticed they recycled the spaceships from the War of the World that came out about the same time.
Oh, it was a low-budget flick. I still thought it was a good movie.
It showed it too, but it was an interesting story anyway.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks an awful lot. Have a happy new year. Okay, let's see. A little more science news. Speaking of being in outer space here. Apparently, Voyager 2 is basically revealing new details about the planet Uranus. And they've just gotten done analyzing the data. And apparently they discovered the spacecraft flew through a phenomenon known as a plasmoid, which is a giant structure of a planet's magnetic field, one which can actually strip off the atmosphere of a planet. And then finally, interesting little article. This is from sci-fi.com. Why is Earth still habitable after billions of years? In part, we're just lucky. I disagree, because life evolved to deal with the changing conditions on Earth. That's what happened. Okay, there's the music. Time to bring the show to an end here. Stay tuned for the John Stedmiller Show. Steve Elkins is taking the microphone tonight, and I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. Republic really does need your help right now. We'll be back tomorrow with the lovely Lady Claire. Aloha, America.